Remember last year's amazing trip? That cute first birthday party? All those photos, all those memories can be freed from your phone with a Shutterfly photo book. Rediscover and share your favorite moments with those you love. You'll be amazed how easy it is to make a photo book with Shutterfly and enjoy it for years to come. Get 40% off orders over $29 with code POD40 at Shutterfly.com and make something that means something.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon. Sometimes the most painful part of getting sick is the getting better part. Waiting on hold for an appointment, sitting in crowded waiting rooms, standing in line at the pharmacy, that's painful. Amazon One Medical and Amazon Pharmacy remove those painful parts of getting better with things like 24/7 virtual visits and prescriptions delivered to your door. Thanks to Amazon Pharmacy and Amazon One Medical, healthcare just got less painful.
There's a great moment where she wants to put a picture up. It's a nude photo she's taken of this guy from the back.
Yeah.
But because it's in a window, she's like, oh, we need a wall with lots of windows. And she goes to this like new build, like building site, and JR's just pissing himself laughing, going, Agnès, we're in Normandy.
This is episode 110 of Flixwatcher podcast. Hello, film fans. Joining Flixwatcher today in our studio, we have Jeanette.
Hi.
Daryl.
Hello.
And as always, Kobe.
Hey.
And we're here to review the 2017 documentary Faces Places.
And if you want to hear more about us or read more about us online, come to our website, flixwatcher.tv, visit us and join in the banter with us on Twitter at FlixWatcherPod, and head over to iTunes, subscribe to us, review us, and share with your friends.
As always, films reviewed in this podcast were available to stream on Netflix UK at the time of recording. There may be bad language and there may be spoilers. You have been warned. Hello and welcome to this episode of Flixwatcher podcast. In the studio today we have Jeanette and Daryl. If you would like to say hello to our listeners and tell them about the podcast you do, please.
Hello, listeners. We are from the Sudden Double Deep film podcast, and on our show, we watch 3 films linked by a word in the title.
We also, there's the two of us, but we also have our friend and co-host, Ben, who comes with us. So yeah, unfortunately, he couldn't be here today. But yeah, he joins us on our film podcast as well. So yeah, there's usually the 3 of us.
So can you explain the linkage of the 3 films by that title? I mean, so we'll start with your title, the name of your podcast, for example.
Right. Sudden Double Deep comes from the word impact, sudden impact, double impact, and deep impact. I think the next one we did was Evil, the very next episode. So we did See No Evil, Hear No Evil, Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, and Deliver Us from Evil.
So we try and pick 3 different genres. So we don't always do the same genres, and we try and pick 3 different decades as well.
Okay. We try.
We
don't always get there. Like recently we did Free, and we did Born Free, Free Willy, which again, they're kind of similar.
Both got animals.
And then we did Free Fire. So like completely different.
There's some quite obscure choices in there, so it's not kind of like your blockbuster choices. There'll always be kind of one biggish one and then some.
We do try to
slightly...
we could do the latest films that's out in the cinema at the moment and try and weave it in that way, but there's so much good cinema out there, historically there's tons of it. So
there's definitely a tug of war that used to happen between myself and Ben, and the reason we set up the podcast was so I would watch some more current films, and Ben would have to watch something that came out before 1990.
Is that vintage for you guys, 1990?
It is for Ben, yeah.
Our
like anything before 1990 is a bit like hit and miss for him.
Our earliest film was The Kid, so 1921. Yeah.
And I was linked by Kid, was it?
Yeah.
Right.
Did The Karate Kid,
yes, we did.
Turbo Kid, The Kid.
Which Karate Kid?
Dude, the original.
Just making sure.
You've
got to ask.
Like, no, we did the next Karate Kid.
Well, it could have been the Jaden Smith one.
No, more.
Please.
Yeah.
It's a hard pass from me.
Although Jackie Chan in that is still, he's great.
He's great in everything.
So we're here today talking about Faces Places.
Yes.
Which is your choice, Jeanette.
It is.
Can you tell us why you chose it and give a 2-minute synopsis?
I can. Well, I'll try. So I chose this because I'm a bit in love with Agnès Varda. She's amazing. She died this year in March at 90 years old from breast cancer. And she's just a tiny little pocket rocket of a powerhouse of a woman. She is the mother of French New Wave cinema, which is a whole... it's like a genre of cinema that kind of they were very experimental with like their style and their narrative and their editing and their visuals. It was throwing away like the traditional forms of making movies and starting from scratch and making something new and exciting. It was kind of film as art, like not just telling a story. So she kind of invented she helped invent this scene. And yeah, she's just a joyful, lovely person, and I love watching her. With
Agnès Varda, was she always? I mean, we in the recent Oscars and recent award season, there was a dearth of female-directed films. Even though last year there was a shitload of female-directed films, which would have been up for nomination. How has Agnès kind of fared in her career in terms of being seen and her films getting out there?
Well, as I say, she's usually like very much. Credited with being kind of part of New Wave and kind of, you know, but really she hasn't had that much success awards wise. Like she's very well known and very well respected, but yeah, she only got an honorary Oscar. The Oscar that she received was only an honorary Oscar. It wasn't for her work.
Certainly didn't strike me as somebody who actually gave a shit
about awards. That kind of thing.
Yeah,
she saw herself as an artist, and I think that was more important to her. And as well, she wasn't really that bothered about celebrity. Like she didn't really want the celebrity lifestyle. She was very much a bohemian, and I just love her. I just want to give her a great big hug.
Did she do any films in English? Could that have been one reason there wasn't such a big transfer?
I don't think she did, no. I think she mostly worked in French, and with French artists and French actors. I don't think she did many
She
English
had a period where she spent time in LA. There was some documentaries she did that way. She interviewed like the Black Panthers, stuff like that. She was also one of the heads of the movement to help abolish the anti-abortion laws in France as well. Okay. So she's, absolute pioneer and activist. So
she'd be spinning in her grave right now with Alabama and stuff like that.
Oh Christ, she would not. She would not have had it. Yeah. No.
So can you tell us, like say, I got a couple of minutes synopsis on Faces Places?
Yeah, it's a documentary. It's Agnès and her friend and collaborator JR, who's a street artist and photographer, and they travel across the countryside in JR's magic van, which it looks like a Polaroid camera, but it's actually a photo booth and a printer.
Yeah.
And they go around and it's just about the people that they meet really, and celebrating. It's about celebrating the ordinary. It's about making the mundane beautiful. Yeah. And Agnès, because she is getting on, like she talks quite a lot about her own mortality in this film, and I think this was a project that it was very close to her heart. It's something that she really wanted to do, to kind of just one final big push, as it were, like one last big art project, and I think she did it beautifully.
Helen, what are your thoughts?
So I knew the name, but I had never seen anything by her, and this had kind of passed me by, and I just thought it was absolutely wonderful. It was an hour and a half of just lots of beauty, lots of humour, lots of warmth, and like just this kind of really wonderful quirkiness about it, and being really ordinary at the same time. And the pictures that they do together are just really, really, really beautiful, and how they display them on the buildings, and how they take people from these very small towns, or how they bring people to areas that are decaying and uninhabited. It's just something really, really magical. And their relationship that they have on this little mad road trip is just really, really beautiful.
I had, in my ignorance, hadn't heard of Agnès Varda until I heard of Girls on Top's Tees, the t-shirt company, and going through the list of female filmmakers and influences in film. I was looking at all the people who I hadn't heard of or knew very little about, and Agnès Varda was one of them. Yeah. And then quickly after I heard of Girls on Top's Tees, this film came out, and I saw a trailer for it, and I thought, I was just enraptured just by that trailer, just thought, I don't know how you explain this film. I don't know how this got made, but just in that 2-minute clip, I was like, I want to see this film straight away. I didn't see it in the cinema, but then I saw it. Super glad when it came out on Netflix, and then you chose it quite quickly afterwards.
Yeah, well, because Agnès had just passed away a couple of months previous, and I just think it's a beautiful celebration. Like if you've never heard of Agnès, and if you've never seen any of her work, I think it's a really lovely place to start.
Yeah,
I think you get a real feeling of her as a person and as an artist.
Because it goes back into her history quite a lot as well.
Yeah, and she's been, during the 50s and 60s, she was working with, she was primarily a photographer, but then she started experimenting with film, and, she became not just part of the new wave, but she was always, she's a left bank filmmaker. There was like the Crips and the Bloods. You had like your left bank.
You talk about Paris. Is this like the left bank and the right bank?
In the new wave.
Oh, okay.
You had your left bank filmmakers and you had your right bank filmmakers. So like right bank was a bit more traditional.
Right.
But she was always such a little, she didn't want to run in any crew. She didn't want to do anything anyone else was doing.
Okay.
She always wanted to go her own way. I think you get a real feeling of her work through this movie. How she just doesn't want to be like anybody else. She just wants to do her own thing.
Daryl.
Yeah, I adore this. There's an earlier documentary of hers called, I'm going to totally ruin this, Daguerreotype, which was a documentary. It's her.
Is that about a war?
No, it's her on a street where she lives, where she lived her whole life, and it's her just more or less interviewing like the greengrocer and talking to him, and and then it's like the woman from just down the road, and then talking to them, and just putting a camera on ordinary people. But, when you scratch beneath the surface on anybody, it's the same with Faces Places, you discover that they have these extraordinary lives. Or they're here, this wonderful, element where they'll go out from town to town and there'll be just this little story where somebody just tells about their life. And it's just, everybody has their stories, whether it's their family, it's their history. And that's all we are, is stories. And that's all we'll be once we're gone. And that's, I think, something that...
That's why Bran's so important in Game of Thrones.
It's definitely why I think, this is a very personal film for Agnès, because it's exactly what she's saying. Her stories are going to be here long after she's gone, and we, the lovely age gap between herself and JR, there's 55 years between those two, but they are both unified by the fact that they are both visual artists, and he manages to do extraordinary things with her art.
I think they bring out lovely traits in each other, and I think you really get a feeling of I get a feeling it's like the respect between the two of them. You can really feel it. It's quite palpable, not just as friends but as artists, and it's almost like a grandson and his grandmother. Like they've got this kind of almost familial relationship. But yeah, I think you can tell he adores Agnès.
I think it's even closer than grandmother and grandson, because I think there's more of a kinship there than familial.
They're friends,
and
they're
totally
very good friends.
And that's why you see them walking across the zebra crossings, and just the way everything's shot, the way they banter together in the vans, the way Agnès is all taking a piss out of him for wearing sunglasses, and he's like,
I'm taking a piss out of her.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. That's what it's just like. It's such an easy flow they seem to have in this documentary, and then it's tied up, and that's the kind of thread that runs all the way through. Plus hints back at Agnes's life. Plus then you meet these intriguing people, and some of the storyline, I think some of the stories of people aren't actually that interesting if you took them out in isolation. Yeah. But when you bring them into how they extract those stories from people.
Yeah.
So one story that kind of hit me, even though it doesn't make any, it's something that happens every day to someone, is they went to this kind of mining village where the salt mine, and they took the groups of the workers there, and one guy happened to be his last day at work, and he was talking about that, and he was like, well, I don't know what's going to happen next. And that, even though everyone, at some point, you retire from whatever you do. Yeah. A simple story, but because of the build-up and because of how he felt about the images that were portrayed, it became like, oh, this is actually a really moving point.
Yeah. And like a leap into the unknown.
Yeah.
And because Agnès is masterful at kind of lingering on people's faces just for long enough. Like so, and
to get that extra bit out of them.
Yeah, and she's really interested in faces as well. She's really interested in things like, wrinkles and eyelashes and, just tiny details that kind of make up, that she finds beautiful.
But this is something that JR was doing as well. Like she mentioned at the beginning that before she'd met him, she was looking at his art. And he went to South America to take photos of elderly people, black and white images of the elderly.
I think it's Cuba.
Yeah. Sorry, yes, right.
And he did a big installation where he posted eyes onto massive gas tanks. Yeah. He does these amazing pieces, and they're so stunning because they are so simple. It's such a simple concept of taking a black and white picture and making it massive, and just finding a really interesting place to put it. And as well, I really like the idea that these aren't permanent as well. Like they're going to come away,
decay
from the
a
walls.
bit. Yeah,
they're going to be gone. But yeah, for that moment, there's something really, really beautiful and lovely about them.
Well, there's that one that's on the side of the
bunker.
The bunker that fell off, that they pushed off the cliff, and that lasted for less than a day. Yeah. And you could sense that they're like, oh, okay, that's it then.
And that's gone. Yeah, exactly. And that's. Because Agnès wanted to put a photo of her friend up. He was one of her models and a friend of hers. And she wanted to put something up to be a tribute to her friend. And, it just looked lovely because he looks like he's being cradled.
Yeah.
She said he looks like he's being held by the building, So it's like there's really touching moments in it.
Because I like how they, because most of the film you don't see how they kind of scout out the places. But that was the one time where you actually found a bit more about the process, and JR, they'd found this place, and then, they measured it, they did all the tide lines. And then they also went to the backstage of like choosing which picture to put with it. And I love the interaction where Agnès had a lot of pictures and he was like, nah, that's not going to work. Nah, not that one. And then they went back to where Agnès took that picture and explained the story. And then it's like, okay, this is one we're going to use. And when you see it there, it's just like, well, that's meant to be.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a great moment where she wants to put a picture up, and they go, it's the back of it's a nude photo she's taken of this guy from the back.
Yeah.
But because it's in a window, she's like, oh, we need a wall with lots of windows, and she goes to this like new build building site, and JR's just pissing himself laughing, going, Agnès, we're in Normandy. He's like, you could pick any wall. You could pick any wall in the most beautiful area. Why are we here?
Why are we the ugliest building in?
Why are we at the ugliest building site in Normandy? And she's going, oh, fine, all right, sure. They obviously they do have fun doing this and kind of finding out finding these places. You very much get the impression that this was. A lot of this is improvised, a lot of the locations they found and the people they spoke to, they didn't know where they were going with it. And there's a lovely line when a guy turns around to Agnès and he says, why are you doing this? Because JR put Agnes's toes on the side of a train tanker, which is one of my favourite pieces.
Toes and her eyes as well.
Yeah, it's lovely. And she's going, oh, my feet are going to places that I've never been. Which is like, it's so poetic and beautiful. And this guy was like, oh, why are you doing this? And she was like, me and JR gave each other permission to experiment. And it's just such a lovely concept. Like you sat down with each other and said, okay, let's see where our imagination takes us. Let's see how we do this.
Does anyone know how long this took to put together? Because on one hand, it looks like it could have been done over 3 days. But on the other hand, it looks like it could have been years to put it together and...
Don't know. It's definitely crowdfunded though, wasn't it?
Was it?
It was partly crowdfunded.
Right.
They got about 60 grand's worth of crowdfunding, and the rest was, done more traditionally. And Agnes's daughter Rosalie helped produce it as well. I think it was done over a few months, but I couldn't tell you how long it took.
Sure.
But yeah, there's definitely points where it's like, that's actually quite cold. You can see the weather's changing. Do you know what I mean? So some of it's done in quite sunshiny parts where you can hear cicadas, and other parts of it, they're sitting on what looks like a freezing cold beach, in the middle of autumn. So yeah, I can imagine this took quite a long time, because finding locations like this, it can't be easy. To find the perfect location or the perfect house, or But yeah, I just love it so much. It makes me really happy, this documentary.
I think from the improvised nature of it is they meet people that they didn't expect to meet, and then they're like, we're going to put you on the side of your house.
Yes.
But I think maybe the scouting part of it might have been a bit more thought out, or
yeah, I think Agnès really based it around her photography. I think it was she wanted to meet new people and she wanted to find new stories, but a lot of her photography that she'd done when she was a young woman, I think she wanted to bring that out and kind of do that in a different medium.
Well, it's even those like the mining postcards that she had.
Yeah, just as a collection.
She just had them, and it was like, right, well, we'll go, and that became the thing that inspired her going to the mining communities.
Yeah.
But yeah, like even like where she has the version of the image on a postcard, and a little old man, an old miner, and his dad was a miner. He had the same image, but in reverse.
Yeah.
And he says, "Oh yeah, but you see, mine's reversed." And she just goes, "Oh yeah, that happens." Because it's just one of those processes, in photography. It's just
I do love the goat farm. Because I think they just came upon a goat farm.
Yeah,
I think
that guy's idea is brilliant, by the way.
What's that?
Instead of shaving off the horns of the goats, you'd stick like little tennis balls or little like clown's noses on the point of the horns. Yeah,
they could be different colours so you could tell them apart. It was like, yes, like don't burn their horns off.
How is this not a thing?
Like dress up their horns. But yeah, I also love the way that the JR and Agnès, especially Agnès, like when she sees people looking at her art, she always asks them how it makes them feel. She always wants to know, she always wants to know how they physically and emotionally, like putting themselves into that art or what they feel looking at her art. And I think that's something you don't see a lot of artists doing. They just kind of go, that's my art, you figure it out.
We're going to do a quick round, guys, and if you can identify one or two or a handful of the images that really kind of struck you, if any did. I'm not forcing you into anything. We'll start with yourself, Helen, as a former arts teacher and photographer.
Crikey, I wasn't expecting to come to me first.
I did pre-warn everyone, so.
So we, you can't obviously see this, listeners, but we've got a wall of some stills from the film, which include some of the pictures there. I think the one that I thought was really, really interesting was actually the three women from who were the partners of the Dockland workers, and they were
the three totems. I think they called it. They dubbed that piece.
Yeah, and just basically these giant photos of three really unique and wonderful women on shipping containers. And I thought their kind of stories, and when she was sort of questioning them about the relationship that they had with their partners, like why do you stand behind them, and
why not beside them?
Yeah, beside them was really lovely. So I really enjoyed that story. And then the goat with horns, because they went to two goat farms. They went to one which was completely kind of automated, where they got rid of the horns, and then
a machine
milking, and the conversation about why they get rid of the horns, and then to a different goat farm where they have the horns
just around the corner.
Yeah,
where it's all organic and they roam free,
and it's completely different. And one of the workers there was just like, "Why do you get rid of their horns?" Thought it was madness. So it was just those kind of little opposites, and they just decided to put a little goat on the wall.
A big goat.
It's a big picture.
Yeah, a big picture of a little goat.
Daryl.
It's probably the holdout, the lady at the mining community where they're knocking down all the mining cottages, and she's the one holdout. She's the one that's still there.
Nice, yeah.
And it's this. It's not even like it's an act of defiance. It's just like this is her home. Mm-hmm. And like her face is just emblazoned on the side of the building, and just her reaction when she comes out of the house and she sees it. And like I'm a sucker for it. If you watch an old person crying, that's me. And then just seeing her in this, so it was like, oh my God. But yeah, like this is I think the second time I've seen this documentary now, and I knew it was coming this time, and was just like kind of had to brace myself a little bit. But I think it's beautiful. I really do.
Jeanette.
It is a really simple one, but I love Agnes's eyes and her toes on the train.
Is that a simple one?
I think because it's not one of the more, it's not the biggest by any stretch, and it's one that's, it's not, part of a village either. It's just they thought they'd look really good on a train. But it was watching JR take Agnes's portraits, and he was so careful and delicate with her, and kind of he really wanted to honor her. Do you know what I mean? And she's got those tiny little feet. It was just lovely, and I just really loved the poetry of it. I just really loved the idea that she was saying, my eyes and my feet are going places I'll never see.
Yeah, and
just she's just such a poet, and it really struck me how simple and how lovely it was.
I've got it's super tough for me, but I think the top three for different reasons. I really like the lady on the side of the building with a parasol,
sitting on the landing,
because it looks like it was just that side of that building was made for her to be put up there in that kind of pose.
And she didn't like it.
No. Her story about it was really interesting, and how she'd kind of become this celebrity, and she kept seeing herself everywhere. And there's all kind of bits through it with like selfie culture, and it was just really interesting to see people become part of these pictures by taking selfies with them. And her story was, it's actually quite sad, because she didn't quite know how she felt about it, but it wasn't something she sort of seemed really proud of.
Well, her kids loved it, didn't they?
Yeah. They took loads of selfies. And they were tickling her feet, like her giant feet on the building, like they were tickling their mum's feet up on the building, which I thought was really cute.
I also really like the postman.
Yes.
That worked really well for me.
Melons, and what was it he was getting in his basket? Melons
and
tomatoes, yeah.
From the farmers where he delivered the post, yeah.
And the three totem women at the Docklands, I thought was really the way they put that together as well. Because sometimes you can see there's kind of two types of photos they take there. One is the kind of instamatic Polaroid one, where they just get someone in the booth and they take and take a massive
really
poster.
Long baguette at the beginning.
Yeah, that was brilliant.
Yeah.
So simple.
So simple, and worked super well. Did every single picture they took with that photo booth come out spectacularly? Because
who knows?
Like
but it did. It did look like it. I think keeping it monochrome really helps.
Yeah.
I think because it's obviously it's much cheaper and quicker to print in black and white, but I think it's much more striking. I think it really kind of this kind of photography really lends itself to being black and white. So and I think if it's slightly misprinted, it doesn't quite matter so much.
And also like the way that when they put it on the buildings, you had the texture of the building shining through.
Yeah.
So with the holdout, as you refer to it, Daryl, with her massive face against the brickwork, and also you have some parts where the wall juts out and the windows don't sit flush with everything else, but really adds to the whole ambience of the image.
And with the containers, she actually got the women to kind of sit in their hearts. Yeah, so like the container was open where the women's heart would be, and I thought that looked amazing. I thought that was beautiful.
I'd definitely like to go and see, if I was in France, I'd like to try and find out one of these areas and see if they still exist and see what kind of state they are.
That would be nice.
Yeah. Anything else, guys, before we go to the scores for Faces Places? Nothing. Let's go to the scores for Faces Places.
Imagine what's possible when learning doesn't get in the way of life. At Capella University, our game-changing FlexPath learning format lets you set your own deadlines so you can learn at a time and pace that works for you. It's an education you can tailor to your schedule. That means you don't have to put your life on hold to pursue your professional goals. Instead, enjoy learning your way and earn your degree without missing a beat. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.
So welcome to the spreadsheet of dreams.
Whoa.
It should have its own jingle, really.
It really should. I feel like it deserves it.
Jasper, if you want to write a jingle for us,
spreadsheet of dreams.
Use that as a sample.
I've got that.
Use that as a sample.
There we go. So we will start with so they're all out of 5. You may have decimal places if you wish. No lower.
Decimal faces.
0. Decimal faces. And we'll start with the recommendability, please, the Jeanette.
Well, for me, it's 5 out of 5 because I love it. I love it to pieces and I want everyone to see it. And also, I feel like this is a bit of a little ray of sunshine. Like Agnès Varda kind of I read an interview about Faces Places she gave after the film came out, and she was just like, the world's a really scary place and it's a really dark place, and we wanted to make people happy.
Yeah.
And I think it is a bit of if you're having a bad day, like just watch this. It's a bit of a spoonful of sugar.
Well, there are some touching moments in there, but I think it's one of those things that it does put a smile on your face, I think, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was watching it and I was wondering, like, if only maybe they could go around, bring it back to life and go around the UK or do something different.
If only they can bring it back to life.
We might fix Brexit if someone did something like this, and
or just spread a little joy.
Yeah.
That there isn't enough of this. Just wandering around and talking to regular people and spreading a bit of joy. I'd say it will blow away the cobwebs if you're having a bad time. So 5 for me.
Daryl.
Okay. For me, recommendability, I would say a 4.5. And the reason that it loses out from 5 to a whole 0.5 is because there are some folk out there that don't do subtitles.
Well, there are a lot
shame
of people out
on
there.
you.
That is true.
You are missing out. But yeah, it's incredible. I really dig this, and it's a nice tight 90 minutes as well.
Yeah,
which is lovely. This is, you could watch this twice over instead of Batman v Superman or whatever. I mean, it's definitely worth your time.
Helen.
So I think this is really, really lovely, but just like you said, Daryl, there will be a lot of people who won't watch it because subtitles, foreign film, and
documentary as well.
A documentary, and it is quite
foreign
arty.
Documentary.
And
My goodness.
the intro is really lovely, where they do the bit where they didn't meet here and they didn't meet there, and it is a little bit wacky, and it is about art as well. And there are a lot of people who would just write this off and just be like, "But what's the point? I don't get it. What happens? There's no story to it," and people will completely miss it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's their loss, and there's nothing we can do about that, which is a shame.
There's no hope for those people.
No, there isn't, is there? But it's their loss. But I'm also going to go with a 4.5 for that one. For that 0.5 of people who won't get it.
Sorry, problems with my typing here. I'm going to go for a 4 because I think it's not just subtitles. I think it's a confluence of other things that will stop people watching it. For me, when I saw the trailer at the top of this episode, I just saw it and I thought I need to watch that film. And it was at Curzon at the time, but then someone told me that it was going to come onto Netflix at some point, so I was like, okay, relax.
I'll save my £25 that it was for me to go to the cinema to watch it for an hour and a half.
Exactly. So I'm super glad it did. I guess we'll talk about this a bit in the small screen score, but I think it's just going to be it will be a hard sell for people, and I'd love people to watch more subtitle films, but I think there's ones that will be easier sell, like, I don't know, La Haine, if you want to go for a French one, I just think will be more people's alley than this. But it is, from my point, it's a fantastic flick. So I'm just going for a hardcore 4.
Repeat viewing, please.
Well, again, for me, it's a 5.
How many times have you watched it?
I've only seen it two times.
But it was released in the UK within the last 12 months, wasn't it? So
yeah.
So.
And yeah, as soon as it came up on Netflix, I was really glad to see it. It really cheered me up to know it was on Netflix.
Did Netflix recommend this to you?
No, it was just one of those ones, when it pops up with your new films. So yeah, it kind of just popped up and I was like, oh, there she is. But yeah, it's also like, not only do I feel like this is really, it really cheers me up, but it's also really inspiring. Like, I feel after I watch this, I kind of want to create. I'm not an artist by any stretch of the imagination, but it does kind of, you do think, oh, maybe I'll get the felt tips out, maybe I'll get my paints out, maybe I'll knit something. You do feel like you want to make something pretty, make something beautiful, and just it's for me, it's, as I say, it's really inspiring. So I just want to watch it again and again, and yeah, be a bit more Agnès, really.
Daryl.
For me, a 4.2. Again, second time I've seen this now. What it's done this time around is kind of kicked me in the head a little bit to, like, I need to get more Agnès Varda films in my life.
Certainly.
Every year I set myself a whole bunch of film challenges for the year. Like it might be that a couple of years ago I'd never seen an Ingmar Bergman film. Right, okay, I'll watch a whole bunch. Then last year, Kurosawa and whoever else. Next year, I've set my challenges, and one of them is to get a whole bunch more Agnès Varda in my eyes and ears.
In your face.
In my face.
Helen.
So we've had this before with documentaries, that generally once you watch them once, you kind of get what you need out of them, and it's, you know, you don't really need to go back because you've learnt everything. So I'm probably not going to watch this loads, but I think I probably would watch it again just because it's so joyful, and it is only an hour and 34 minutes. So that equates to a 3.
Yeah, I'm going to go for 3.5-ish. I think I quite happily, it's one of those things, this is where the subtitles kind of fall down, because I don't speak French very well, and I understood nothing what they're saying when they're speaking French. So it's not something you could have in the background, although if it was in English, I would quite happily have this like...
Oh, okay.
I think if I was pottering around the flat and wait for the bit where the goat image turns up, and then I'd look at it. But because it is French, I don't think, because it is subtitled, that would reduce the amount of times I watch it.
Okay.
Having said that, I think each time would be a pleasurable watch, and I think I could probably happily watch it in installments as well. Just go to the next scene, the next village, the next, exactly, that kind of scenario. What did I say? Did I say score? 3.5. Yeah, 3.5. Small screen score, Jeanette.
I think you should see this as big as possible, because I think, I mean, you probably could see it on something like an iPad. But I wouldn't recommend it. So I'd say I'm going to give it a 3, just because I feel like this should be seen on, at the very least, a nice big telly, so you can get all the detail in. Because it's an art piece, and I feel like, you know, it deserves to be seen on like a nice big screen.
It all depends how good your eyes are, though, really. I know. So, yeah, I'm going to go 3.5, I think, for small screen score. I think you're right. I think it's probably best to see this as big as possible because these are big art pieces. But yeah, like, I don't know, in a pinch, I could quite happily, like, nod off to this in bed. It's just the
so
lovely
soothing.
kind of... It's very soothing. And that's definitely for me. Yeah, 3.5.
Helen.
So I didn't see this at the cinema. I completely passed me by this one. I think I would have liked to have seen it at the cinema because of the, you know, seeing these massive photos printed out massive on a massive screen would have like a really nice kind of impact. But then also, you know, I didn't even see it on anywhere at the cinema, so the fact that it's there existing on Netflix for anyone who's got a Netflix account to discover and be a gateway into your Agnès Varda journey, then I think is a really brilliant thing. And it's great that alongside, you know, some of the bigger films that Netflix have got on there, that they're picking these things up and you know, putting them in front of people. So I'm gonna give it a 4.
If you got a projector, project it onto your wall.
Yeah. Have you got a projector?
No, that's my next.
That's the next project.
That's my next project.
That's the next purchase.
That could be when you get to this film in the Agnès Varda catalogue. That's when you buy the projector, so you can. Yeah, there you go.
Love that.
The punctuation to this. I'm going to go for a bit higher than you guys. I think I'm going to 4.5 here. I think if it's at a cinema, it'd have to be the biggest screen ever to benefit from having those images. But other than that, I don't think there's actually that much benefit of the on a TV size watching a TV size screen versus like a big screen.
Okay.
Versus the cinema standard. Just because you see the perspective.
Yeah.
Of people when like the ladies are stood and the build up. That's one thing I meant to say. When they build up the 3 totems with the crate and with the containers, and you see it put together like a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
And that just looked outstanding. And that would look great as huge on the Super IMAX. But I think it really did have the power as well, just on a TV screen for me as well.
Yeah.
So I'm going to 4.5 there. Engagement score.
So engagement. I mean, this is as you were saying earlier. Like you could actually pick this up and put this down. Like you could actually watch this one project at a time. I like to watch it all in one go, obviously. But I'm going to give it a 4. Because I think, I mean, for me, like, I don't always have to speak the language or read the subtitles. Like, I'm quite happy to listen to another language, not always understand what's being said. I feel like if cinema is done well, like if it's a documentary or if it's a film, sometimes you don't have to understand the language, you know, because of the cadence of the speech and because of the feeling behind the words. You know, it doesn't really matter what language someone's speaking to understand how they feel or what they're trying to say. So I'd quite happily have this on in the background and just listen to JR and Agnès talking. So yeah, I'm going to give it a 4 just because I feel like, I don't always have to look at it to know what's going on.
Daryl?
Probably a 3.6. You need to keep your wits about you, obviously, with subtitles. You know, they can come right at you. Gotta be careful.
Boom, subtitle.
Boom. Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a little bit of what Jeanette's saying here. I totally get. You know, we've watched a few things without subtitles on occasionally. First time I've watched Day Watch, the sequel to Night Watch, the Russian film from a few years back.
Right.
I went in and I saw that at the cinema, and it was subtitled, but in French, because that's where I was.
Russian
and I was
movie,
like,
subtitled in French.
I thought it was the only time I'm going to get to see it at the cinema, and I was in France and I saw it with French subtitles, this Russian film. I went, oh shit. And I got what was going on. I could understand it. And, you know, I think with Faces Places here, you know, in terms of engagement, you've got to be kind of invested in it. You can't, this isn't one I think you could like really do the washing up and avoid, like not see bits of, because you're going to miss out on
it would be a
all
shame
the
if you did.
Splendor of the awesome art that JR and Agnès create.
Helen?
I'm going to go a lot higher than you. I'm going to go 5. It's an hour and a half. If you can't give an hour and a half of your full attention to this really lovely film, then...
Busy lives.
If it's an hour and a half,
Still a lot.
not that long.
It's
not that long. I was really surprised when it ended. I was kind of, it's over.
I could have done a full couple more hours of this, to be honest.
Maybe not a few more hours, but
I could have done a series.
Yeah.
Like I would have loved a series of, you know, every episode was a different village, different project. Like I could
Isn't
do
that
that
the littlest
for sure.
hobo?
Well, they just go from village to village spreading art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember the littlest hobo with a massive van.
Printing photos.
But,
She definitely need her own theme song, that.
It's a really nice pace, and I think it just deserves to have your full attention.
Fair enough.
I think I'm going to go for... I'm going to go for 5 as well, because I don't speak French, and I want to make sure that I would watch films and give them as much attention as they require. So this got a lower repeat viewing score for me because I need to be paying attention, but when I'm watching it, I'll be like paying attention. I lived in France for a bit, and their local cinema, they had the big films like Lord of the Rings was on at the time, and they had that version, VOST version, original, subtitled from original, whatever. And that would be English, that would be French but with English subtitles, or English with the French subtitles, so you could actually get through it. So you watching a Russian film in French with the French subtitles sounds like a complete mindfuck to me. I could not do that.
We recently covered a film called Quick, which was a South Korean film from a few years back, action film. And I'm kind of ashamed to admit I had to get a hooky copy of it because it never got released in the UK. And I watched it with English subtitles, but it was dubbed in Hindi from South Korean.
What?
Yeah, tell me what.
So Korean film dubbed in Hindi, subtitled in English, and you're just like, oh my brain. Oh no, oh my brain.
And I had to do it twice as well because we watched it and then Ben hadn't watched it for the podcast. So the night before recording, I had a few drinks in me. I needed it for a second run up, and yeah,
it sounds like a long film as well.
It felt long.
It felt
to the
long.
cause,
Definitely felt long.
So yeah, 5 overall engagement score, and that gives us 4.14, which
It's pretty high.
Yeah, especially for a documentary.
Yeah,
cool.
It's really good.
So well done, guys. Yeah, I think with the one thing I was going to talk about with engagement score was what you said, Jeanette, and one thing that Helen talked about on the recent episode of ours, which is Hearts Beat Loud, is that it's nice to have a film that's just got the positive vibes around it.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that kind of makes it, I'm happy to watch this. And I think what I would do to try and recommend people to watch this is just show them the trailer, which for me, like I say, 90 seconds, 2 minutes long. And if you're not into it by that point, then it's not for you.
I'd say that's fair. If you don't like the trailer, then you're not going to dig this.
Yeah.
It's got cats in it as well. She's got that little cat that sits on her shoulder.
That's her. Yeah, that's one of her bestest friends in the world. Her cat. She's a very big cat lady. She loves cats.
A big cat lady.
And goats.
Wonderful lack of cynicism in this.
Yeah.
It's everything is
and pretension. There's a wonderful lack of
pure of
pretension.
heart and super positive.
Well, yeah, because even though JR wore the sunglasses all the way through, you didn't feel like it was
aloof.
Yeah.
You didn't feel like he was an art wanker.
No.
Which I think is really important. You know, he's doing it. It is an affectation. He is hiding behind them, but he's not using it to separate himself from everybody else. It's just part of who he is.
Yeah.
You know, so it feels very genuine, this documentary, and you know, JR and Agnès are very genuine people, and I think everybody should get to know them better.
One scene I loved massively was when they're going through the Louvre and Agnès is in the and it's pushing. Yeah. Good Lord. They were
so much fun.
They were both having so much amazing fun there, just like pointing out names of artists and art they're loving, and JR was like dancing around and parkouring all over. You got to watch it just for that scene, guys. I think that's just
for sure.
absolutely
I love it when they go to the fish market and they're just taking pictures of the fish.
Yeah.
And she was going that one just for fun, like a giant squid. Yeah, it's just so lovely to see life through her eyes for a little while, and just, you know, take the ordinary, take the normal, and just kind of see the beauty in it. I think we could all do that a little bit more.
On that lovely note, can you tell us, guys, where we can find you online, and we'll say goodbye to Jasper and the rest of our listeners.
You can find us at STD Film Podcast on Twitter and on Instagram, and you can find our co-host at Benji Box on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter at Miss J Soundtrack. You can find Sudden Double Deep on all good podcatchers. I've lost the ability to talk. Where else can you find us, Daryl?
You pretty much nailed it.
Okay, cool. Excellent. We're also on Instagram as well.
At SDD Film Podcast.
Absolutely.
On Instagram. Fantastic, guys. Well,
thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming.
Bye.
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 Thanks for listening to Flixwatcher Podcast. Leave us your 5-star review on iTunes. Follow us on Twitter at FlixWatcherPod. And if you aren't already, get yourself subscribed.
Cheers, Brendan, for your fantastic editing skills. Really, really appreciate it. And cheers to everyone, all the mighty people, for the tunes that you can hear right now.